Hello, CAD community, and welcome to our CAD Chat series. I'm Miranda Hassler. I'm a fifth year architecture student, and I'm here with Donna Clandening. Donna is a principal and chief strategy officer for AC Martin. She's also a graduate from Cal Poly in architectural engineering. Thank you for joining us today, Donna.
Thanks for having me.
So, to get started, could you share a little bit about your career path and how you ended up in your current role at AC Martin?
Okay, let's see. The career path that I chose, first of all, I'm ARCE major, 1987, so it's been a few years, just a few. But my career path is actually one that really speaks to the Cal Poly CAED education. The whole multidisciplinary aspect of it, where it's architecture, ARCE, construction management, landscape architecture, and city and regional planning, all of those combined into one college. That really actually did set kind of like, wasn't necessarily intentional, but it was definitely something that has supported my somewhat varied career path. I like to think that when I was in school, I used to work summers and winter breaks at an architectural firm down in Orange County. I'm originally from Southern California. And so that kind of set it up. So I was always working for architecture firms, even though I was an ARCE major, right? When I think it was after I did a co-op, and then that was with a structural engineering firm. So that was the first time I had worked for a structural engineering firm. And then right after graduation, obviously I did go work for a structural engineering firm for was strictly structural engineering. And I did that for about 3 years. After which, went to work for a multidisciplinary engineering firm. So it wasn't just structural, it was mechanical, electrical, plumbing, a number of specialty consulting services like acoustics, audiovisual, things like that. And then I did spend about 14 years there. And the first 10 working on projects, everything from structural engineering to project management. And then at the end, but it was always project managing multidisciplinary kind of like contracts where we weren't just the structural engineer on the project, we were providing a whole host of engineering services. The last 4 years there, though, I kind of switched over to the business side where I was doing marketing and business development. And from there, I went to work for a construction firm. So it was a specialty design build firm. So was able to utilize the structural engineering background I had because it was a specialty structures firm. So, reading drawings, putting together estimates, putting together bids, things like that. So then used all the CM classes that I took. And then finally I want to say now it's been about 13 years, came to AC Martin, which is strictly an architecture design firm. And started out really as just like the director of marketing, and then slowly kind of changed. My role kind of morphed. It was always kind of like never going to be strictly a marketing role anyways, but it definitely morphed into everything that is much more strategic in nature. The title is Chief Strategy Officer simply because everything I do is really about strategic initiatives in the firm, whether it's like major project pursuits or I get involved in, for example, continuing education, determining which kind of courses or training that people need in order for us to stay strategically positioned. It could also involve human resources issues like key strategic hires. If we want to go into a new market, how do we, find the best person to lead us into that new market? And then even things like public relations, communications, all sorts of things. Anything, like I said, that is strategic in nature.
Wonderful. So can you talk a little bit about your experience at Cal Poly? And I know you had a lot of varied roles. Do you think like Cal Poly's Learn by Doing philosophy helped you along your career journey at all?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, because I think that the learn by doing, even when I was just doing strictly structural engineering, the firms that I always worked for did search for Cal Poly grads, primarily because, really when you get out of school, and you'll discover this because you're a fifth year right now, you can hit the ground running. There's your projects, the project-based kind of education, you've already kind of learned how to do from start to finish because you're interfacing with planning majors, you know, like the upfront work that needs to go into a project plan. Um, and so I think that the education definitely benefited my career. I loved being at Cal Poly. Obviously, you can see the background. um, but I was there for 4.5 years because I did take 6 months off to do my co-op. Um, we used to spend, let's see, that was back when the Archie labs were in the ground floor of Engineering West, and you know, had a lot of fun there. Took a lot of architecture courses. Loved architecture history. That was great. It was with an old professor, Vern Swanson, who was amazing. Um, the structures instructors were fantastic. In fact, there's a lot of my classmates that have returned to teach at Cal Poly. If you've taken either Kevin Dong or Craig Baltimore or Brent Nuttall,
Sure.
those are all guys that I went to school with. Okay. So
Okay.
you can see everybody in my class loved it. We did a lot with some of the student activities, you know, with SEOC and everything else like that. But it was, you know, it was great. My experience at Cal Poly was great.
Awesome. Do you have any advice for students who maybe are early on in their education at Cal Poly of like certain classes or different markets that would help them after they graduate?
I would suggest two things. Number one is there. Okay, so the one thing is that, you know, back in the early and mid '80s, the amount of classes that we had to take cross-disciplinary and multidisciplinary was actually required, and it was huge. And that was a big, big benefit. So as much as you can take classes in some of the other disciplines, that's huge. I think the other thing that's really important as a student who is just embarking is and this doesn't matter what field you're actually entering into, um, but it is any kind of communication kind of courses. So
So Donna, what kind of qualities do you look for when you're hiring recent graduates?
well, okay, so I'm going to take a cue from our design principal, who one of the things that she always looks for when she's hiring new graduates is, well, actually, there's two things. Number one is initiative, right? The ability to take initiative and, you know, try and find a new way to do things. If they don't know how to do something, is like either, you know, explore different ways to do it, ask around, you know, finding things. So initiative was one. And the other thing that she places a huge amount of emphasis on is actually it's kind of a two-part thing. It's creativity and curiosity, right? So obviously
Awesome.
creativity, and this goes with hand in hand again with initiative and being able to find creative solutions. But she's also looking for, and I always think that this is unique, but she's also looking for people who are very curious in nature. That's right. So they want to explore. And I think that kind of like exploration and initiative and creativity, they're all like related. And it just, you know, because coming from Cal Poly, obviously you've got a great education, you have, you know, the technical know-how so much more than coming out of some other institutions, but it is some of those other qualities I think that makes you stand out.
Thank you so much for taking the time to share your insight with us, Donna. It's been incredibly helpful.
Not a problem, Miranda.
So
And if you've got any follow-up questions, just go ahead and email me. And if I don't know the answer, or if I think that maybe somebody else in AC Martin's office can help you with any of their insights, I can certainly get some of that feedback too.